Universal announced in February 2018 that the untitled film known as Jurassic World 3 would be released on June 11, 2021. It was also announced that Trevorrow would write the script with Emily Carmichael, based on a story by Trevorrow and writing partner Derek Connolly, who worked with him on the scripts for the previous Jurassic World films. Like the previous films, Marshall and Patrick Crowley would be producers and Trevorrow and Spielberg would return as executive producers. A month after the announcement, Trevorrow also confirmed himself as director. J.A. Bayona had directed the previous installment, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and Trevorrow was inspired by Bayona's work on the film, saying that it made him want to finish what he started. Spielberg had also asked Trevorrow to return as director, so he would with his exciting follow-up and conclusion to his film trilogy with his 2022 film, Jurassic World Dominion.
You trained raptors.
You were at Jurassic World.
Jurassic World? Not a fan.
Let them fight.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I'll be back.
Death has come to your little town, June.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Chills and Thrills for another episode on the Jurassic Park franchise. And today, as always, Connor here with you along with Chris. And today we are wrapping up the Jurassic Park franchise with Jurassic World Dominion, right before we get our new film in the franchise, Jurassic World Rebirth. So I know, Chris, I believe we said we both seen this in theaters, and I know we didn't talk about if we were kind of high or low on it or kind of right in the middle. So how did you feel about it in theaters, if you remember, and then how did that opinion change on the most recent rewatch?
Sure. In theaters, I was very kind of divided. I saw it with my two buddies, one of which, Jesse, he's the other super film aficionado and super Jurassic aficionado, and I think he was a bit higher on it than I was, at least initially. It's I never saw it more than once in the theater, and I never bought it on disc, and I hadn't rewatched it beginning to end in one sitting until this showing. I'd seen bits and pieces here, clips, whatever. It's kind of the same, just in a different way. I was really kind of divided on it the first time I watched it, and I'm kind of divided on it still. There are high highs and some moments and shots and sequences that are great. Maybe even some of like your favorite, what could be my favorite kind of moments or just imagery specifically in the series. But then there's all these kind of other just oddities sprinkled throughout, and it feels like the movie was maybe trying to do too much at once, or just trying to do a lot at once, and it becomes a little bit of like a jumbled kind of thing. Like there's just a lot going on, and I think it these movies are usually in that 2 hour range, and this one's in that 2.5. And if you watch the extended edition, it's more like a 2 hours and 40-minute range, and it just feels like they almost they wanted to find a way to fit in everything that they could, and it's a little overstuffed. It's a little unfocused in some ways. You'll get these random stupid kind of scenes and moments, but then you'll get something that's like really, really enjoyable and well executed. So it's kind of a mixed bag, and it's a shame to say that, but it's got some decent highs, but it's got some oddities and some weird lows to it, and it's weird to be so divided on it.
Yeah, in theaters, I only seen this once in theaters as well. I went with like my brother-in-law, my sister, a lady I was talking to at the time. Like there was probably a group of like 6 or 7 of us, I believe, and I came out feeling mixed as well. I wasn't sure. I was like, and I've said this before on here, like when I'm in theaters, I'm either usually I'm really high on a film, or I'm just like, nah, I'm not a fan. Like maybe I'll give it a rewatch later and see if my opinion changes. But like this one being mixed and not knowing how I feel, like once it came out on Blu-ray, 4K, all the added, I watched it and I was like, okay, like I liked it more the second time I had seen it. And then like I watched it more the third time. And then the fourth time I watched it, I believe like 4 times in the last month getting ready for this episode because there's just so much going on in this film. And like the first 2 times I watched it, it climbed on my list. I got a little higher. And then the next 2 times I watched it, I kind of seen more of things like that I didn't like. And I was like, okay, like, that you could tell that was like added in just because, or certain lines where this is a call out to the fans, or so again, I still kind of ended up being mixed on it. I like the film definitely way more than I dislike it, but it is like a middle of the pack for me.
Yeah, after the first time, it was kind of only just a little bit of a sting of like disappointment, and then over the 3 years, it was always, my opinion was kind of just like, yeah, that one fumbled, that one wasn't it, that one didn't hit the mark. Watching it again, I'm able to kind of a bit more, even if I'm not very high on the movie, I can say like, hey, I can definitely say here's the moments in the scenes where it really works, and here's the very specific things and ways that it kind of goes off the rails. And it's like these scenes, these sequences, these characters are kind of shoehorned in and they don't really belong, and that's what weighs this movie down. This movie, as we get into it, the movie is best when it's focusing on certain characters, and then it'll just kind of meander, and that's when it kind of loses its way a little bit. And we'll get into that as we more discuss, but it's just got kind of like a focus problem. And again, I don't know if they were just kind of throwing everything at the wall, and every fun concept they would come up with, they just felt like they had to orchestrate a way to include it. But it's just a lot of real estate that this one's covering, and a little bit more focus could have done it some good.
Yeah, I won't go like dive too much into the plot or anything, but I thought it could have been I thought this could have been split into 2 films with like the kidnapping of Macy and like the black market, like the dinosaurs being on the black market and stuff. That could have been one film, and then another film could have been like the sanctuary for the dinosaurs, and then like them having to break in because of the locusts, and like it could have been 2 separate films, and they put them both into one and cram packed it into a 2.5 hour film.
Yeah, and after you read the plot synopsis, we'll kind of have, I guess, that kind of a little bit of that open air discussion of like what kind of jived, what kind of didn't jive, and we'll get to that a little bit before we dive into the specifics of the favorites and categories.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to that, I'll give you some background here on Jurassic World Dominion. Jurassic World Dominion is a 2022 American science fiction action film directed by Colin Trevorrow, who co-wrote the screenplay with Emily Carmichael from a story by Derek Connolly and Trevorrow himself. This is the sequel to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and it is the 3rd installment in the Jurassic World series and the 6th installment in the overall Jurassic Park film franchise, concluding the original storyline that began with Jurassic Park in 1993. Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, B.D. Wong, and Omar Sy reprised their roles from the previous films, along with Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, and Sam Neill, who appeared together for the first time since the original Jurassic Park. Also joining the cast were DeWanda Wise and Mamoudou Athie. The film is set 4 years after the events of Fallen Kingdom, with dinosaurs now living alongside humans around the world. It follows Owen Grady and Claire Dearing as they embark on a rescue mission, while Alan Grant, Ellie Sattler, and Ian Malcolm work to expose a conspiracy by the genomics corporation Biosyn. Planning for the film began in 2014, before the release of the first Jurassic World film, and filming took place from February to November in 2020 in Canada, England, and Malta. It is one of the most expensive films ever made, and because of the COVID-19 pandemic, filming was suspended for several months and the release was delayed by a year. Jurassic World Dominion premiered in Mexico City on May 23, 2022, and was released in the United States by Universal Pictures on June 10. It received generally negative reviews from critics, although an extended edition included with the home media release was met more positively Like its predecessors, the film was a financial success and grossed over $1 billion worldwide, becoming the third highest grossing film of 2022, and a standalone sequel, Jurassic World Rebirth, is scheduled for release on July 2nd, 2025. So there is a little background on Jurassic World Dominion. All right, Chris, why don't we go ahead and jump over and get a trailer on Jurassic World Dominion, get a plot synopsis read off, and then we'll come back with some numbers, some fun facts, and get into our favorite categories on the film.
I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion. Something that was real. Something that they could see and touch. Creation is an act of sheer will. Life will find a way.
We can't keep her here forever.
They find her, we're never gonna see her again. We gotta protect her, that's our job.
Humans and dinosaurs can't coexist. We created an ecological disaster.
Ellie Sattler.
Alan Grant.
You didn't come out all this way just to catch up now, did you?
You coming or what?
We're racing toward the extinction of our species. We not only lack dominion over nature, we're subordinate to it.
Come back.
I always come back.
That's another plane, right?
Not exactly.
Don't move. Bigger. Why do they always have to go bigger?
Four years after the Lockwood Estate incident that followed the volcanic eruption of Isla Nublar, once extinct dinosaurs freely roam the Earth. Amid global efforts to control them, Biosyn Genetics establishes a dinosaur preserve in Italy's Dolomites and conducts genomics research ostensibly for pharmacological applications. Claire Deering, Zia Rodriguez, and Franklin Webb investigate illegal dinosaur breeding sites, also gathering proofs of cases of animal cruelty. Claire's partner, Owen Grady, helps relocate stray dinosaurs. At the remote cabin in the Sierra Nevada mountains, Claire and Owen secretly raise 14-year-old Macy Lockwood and protect her from groups seeking to exploit her unique genetic makeup. When Blue, the velociraptor Owen raised and trained, arrives at the cabin with an asexually reproduced hatchling, Macy names it Beta. Increasingly frustrated living in seclusion, Macy sneaks away to explore. Mercenaries searching for Macy find and kidnap her and capture Beta. Meanwhile, swarms of giant locusts are decimating U.S. crops. Dr. Ellie Sattler observes the crops grown with biosyn seeds are left uneaten, raising suspicions that biosyn created the insects. She takes a captured locust to her former romantic partner, paleontologist Dr. Alan Grant. They determine the locust was genetically engineered with Cretaceous period and contemporary DNA. Ellie reveals she is now divorced from her husband Mark. Franklin, now with the CIA's Dangerous Species Division, believes Macy may have been taken to Malta. Upon arrival there, Claire and Owen infiltrate a dinosaur black market with Owen's former Jurassic World colleague, Barry Sembine, who is leading a French intelligence raid. Carnivorous dinosaurs are unleashed during the foray, wreaking havoc. When Claire and Owen learn that Macy and Beta were transported to the Biosyn facility, sympathetic cargo pilot Kayla Watts agrees to fly them there. Chaotician Dr. Ian Malcolm now works for Biosyn. He saw Ellie's help to expose CEO Dr. Lewis Dodgson after communications director Ramsey Cole warned him of Dodgson's illegal activities. Dodgson is exploiting dinosaurs and courses former InGen Genetics Dr. Henry Wu to modify the transgenic locust to let Biosyn corner the world's food supply. Wu denounces the plan, warning it will cause an ecological collapse as the locusts spread unchecked. Wu meets Macy and explains that his former colleague, Dr. Charlotte Lockwood, used her own DNA to replicate and give birth to the genetically identical Macy. She also altered Macy's DNA to prevent her from inheriting the fatal disease which she had. Wu believes that Macy and Beta's asexual conception and DNA are key to creating a pathogen to halt the locust outbreak. Quetzalcoatlus attacks Kayla's plane in Biosyn's airspace, forcing Owen and Kayla to crash land while Claire is ejected. After separate dinosaur encounters, the three regroup. Inside Biosyn, Ian and Ramsey covertly advise Ellie and Alan on where to obtain a locust DNA sample. While searching for the lab, they encounter Macy. Discovering the breach, Dodgson attempts to incinerate the locust to destroy evidence. Some locusts escape through the air vent while ablaze, sparking the wildfire around the preserve. Alan, Ellie, and Macy barely escape the facility before finding Ian. They meet Owen, Claire, and Kayla, with Ramsey later joining them. Dodgson flees with dinosaur embryos via a hyperloop, but becomes trapped after Claire and Ellie reroute the power and is then killed by a trio of Dilophosaurus. As the group works together, Owen, with Alan and Macy's help, capture Beta. They and Wu escape into a Biosyn helicopter amidst a fight between a Giganotosaurus and Isla Nubar's former resident Tyrannosaurus, the latter assisted by a Therizinosaurus. Ellie and Alan rekindle their romantic relationship before testifying with Ian and Ramsey against Biosyn. Owen, Claire, and Macy return home and reunite Beta and Blue. Wu releases a host locust carrying the pathogen, gradually eradicating the swarms. Dinosaurs and humans adapt to a new coexistence, and the United Nations declares Biosyn Valley an international dinosaur sanctuary. Alright, before we hop over to some numbers and fun facts and the rest of the good stuff, we got some more conversating to do. Chris wants to get us into some highs and lows here real quick of the Jurassic World Dominion. So I will let you take it away first again.
Sure. So I'm of the opinion that maybe not in the editing room, but maybe at the script level, this thing could have been cleaned up a little bit and it would have been, without changing a dramatic amount, could have been a lot better. Like, for example, the first scene I noticed on rewatching, when it's like, does this scene really need to be in here? The raid that Claire and the two characters, Franklin and Zia from Fallen Kingdom, go on at the beginning to get the little tiny Triceratops. It's like a nice sequence, but like functionally for the plot, it doesn't really need to be there. It feels like it's there because they wanted at least one scene where Zia was there, because Franklin's role later on in the film, with him being in the CIA and assisting them, that works without this scene to set it up. You know, him just moving to the CIA just works as a scene in and of itself. I feel like certain powers were saying, well, if we cut that scene with Zia out, everyone's going to say, oh, they cut her out because no one liked her in Fallen Kingdom, and then that's us giving into the fans and what they don't like or whatever. But it's like that scene doesn't really belong. The little escapade to the black market is fun, and it's full of a lot of kind of like borderline James Bond, Quantum of Solace like chase sequences. But it feels like this whole other, like it's a sliver of this whole other movie. Like you were saying that like the black market thing could have been like a whole movie in and of itself. You know, you've got this the British blonde who's there for a sequence, and it feels like she's just got. It feels like she'd be the antagonist of a whole other movie. It feels like there's this whole other version of this Like she's got this whole other storyline going on, and it's like I don't know if they were trying to set up a spin-off or some kind of TV tie-in show, or there was going to be like other multimedia tie-ins to kind of like expound upon it. I don't know. Or if there was some version of the script that was more of the black market side of things and she was a major player in that one, but then they decided that wasn't the direction they were going to go in, but this sequence was really good, so they wanted to have this sequence in, so it feels extra, like just a cool dinosaur sequence in and of itself does not make it essential for the film. The characters, the kind of secondary characters like Kayla the pilot, like yes, you functionally need a pilot, but when they get down to the climax of the movie, it's Owen and Claire and Maisie from the Jurassic World movies crossing over with Ian and Alan Grant and Ellie Sadler from the original Jurassic Park, plus Kayla the pilot they just met this movie. It just feels like a little extraneous, like, huh? Like we've got this new random character that's now part of like our big group shot and part of the main team. It feels kind of shoehorned in. They had to go out of her way to kind of give her overlapping stuff with Owen. Like they fight the one dinosaur on the ice together. They like crash the plane together. Like they both seem to have like dinosaur knowledge. Like she drops the Giganotosaurus details on him when he doesn't know what it is, which Dr. Alan Grant does later as well. So it's a little redundant. Like you have two characters saying the same things over again, just to two different groups of people. So again, it's like I understand you need a pilot or maybe some other plot mechanism to serve here, but like, oh, we're now just going to introduce a character who's now elevated to the team. It feels a little odd, like the supporting character like Ramsey. Like, could his role have not just generally been folded into Ian Malcolm's role? Like, couldn't they have played up a little bit more of the like, oh man, Ian Malcolm's helping Dodgson, like he's not really on our side here, kind of a thing, and then you get that kind of pleasant reveal that he is. Like, could they have just leaned into a bit more of that and didn't have to do this like young pupil who turns on the evil mentor inside job sort of a thing? Like, it just felt like they were trying to service a lot of different threads, and it kind of just, it's just like there's just like a lot going on, and so that's that's my 2 pennies on that. There's just some extra fat on the bones here that could have been trimmed out.
Yeah, and I mean, I won't go into too much. You pretty much nailed it right on the head. But I mean, like the only thing I could say I already said is that I feel like they kind of forced 2 movies into one and kind of jumped the gun, and they could have done a kind of took the script down a little bit.
Yeah.
Added like concentrated on these 3 things in this film and like gave them all the extra that we needed. So like we're full from this dinner. And now we're getting we're getting dessert as well. Like we're getting 3 pounds of dessert on top of the dinner we just ate with this film.
Yeah,
like,
and
it's a little much.
And I don't hate Dr. Henry Wu's redemption arc, but it didn't feel like that's where they were going after Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom. If anything, it felt like he would have been more elevated to another higher up villain level. I didn't see his redemption arc as something that they were going to go for. And if anyone who's read the books knows that like redemption is not in the cards for that character. So so that was an interesting thing. And part of me, and like, I hate thinking like this because it's like, you don't like to overthink these things, but was there some executive on some board somewhere that was like, you can't have too many white people in this movie and you can't have all the heroes be white people. So like the non-white villain, Dr. Henry Wu, has to go on like a redemption arc, and we've got to put some more people of some other races in here to kind of diversify the cast a little bit. And I'm like, was it really that superficial? Because sometimes in the movie it almost does feel like it was, and it's like, okay, that's fine, I guess. Doesn't really help the movie, that's just my opinion.
Couple characters that just feel forced.
Like you could have given, like, for example, like Owen's friend from Jurassic World. you could have given him a larger role in the movie. He barely gets a cameo. You know, like he's in like one sequence, and it's like if you'd made him, like elevated him, like said that he was the pilot, you know, like he had piloting skills, and so they meet up with him there, and he pilots them out. Like you know, that's fine. Like it's not like, you know, a problem with, you know, certain colored people or whatever. It's just like the character, like when you're in chapter, you know, what was pitched as chapter 6 of 6 chapters, you don't want to be introducing like these all new major supporting characters that are supposed to be almost as important as your main cast that you've been following across multiple movies. You know, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I'd have been all for, you know, bringing back Owen's friend. I can't exactly remember his
gosh,
name.
what's his name? What's his name? Oh, okay, Barry. There we go, Barry Sabine. So there we go. Omar Sy. See, Omar Sy and Mamoudou Athie, they both have weird pronounced names. But anyway, so Barry, like, you know, he could have been, because he was set up in Jurassic World. So he could have like come back in a more prominent role instead of just a cameo. You know, the way they used Justice Smith as Franklin, that kind of worked. Like he went to the CIA and now they use him a little bit as a, you know, help there, you know, like something like that could have worked instead of him just being there for like a scene.
Yeah, I would have loved to get more Barry in this film. I liked his little parts that he had in Jurassic World. And I mean, I can't say I missed his character in Fallen Kingdom, but I would have liked him for sure to have a bigger role in
He
this.
could have had an arc across the 3 films.
Absolutely. Why don't I jump into some numbers
gosh,
here?
Not to get us off track, but like, what if he was the one that went with them to the island in Fallen Kingdom instead of the 2 losers? You know, like, like that would have been more compelling. You know, it would have been more compelling. You know, he's helping wrangle.
I would have been all on board
like
for
a cool
it.
guy. You know,
She only looks at whatever she wants to eat.
That's a good line. You know.
Well, that's all we have for some quick highs and lows before we dig in deeper to the film. How about I jump over to some numbers for you, and we'll knock them out before we get to some fun facts, because I got quite a few fun facts for you for Jurassic World Dominion.
Sounds good.
So Jurassic World Dominion had a budget of $265 million with a return of just over $1 billion at the box office. So our inflation numbers will be small, so Chris will go over those for us.
Yeah, that 265 budget would be about 290, and that 1.004 billion box office would be about 1.1 billion. Also, if anyone is like very happy about the fact that this movie was able to scrape its way to 1 billion worldwide, you can thank Japan. It had like a pretty long box office run in Japan towards the tail end of it, and people were like, oh, it's not going to hit 1 billion, and then it like came out in Japan and it made kind of exactly what it needed to pass 1 billion. So we owe Japan that one.
I will take it, because I mean that I think there's only one film in this franchise that didn't make $1 billion. So
there's 2 of them, 2 and 3.
Well, okay, sorry, yes, not including inflation.
Oh yeah, yes,
sorry,
yes. Yeah. So yeah, of course you're doing the real numbers.
Yep, that is my bad.
Oh, that's all right.
Jurassic World Dominion had a 5.6 out of 10 rating on IMDb, a 29% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a 38% rating on Metacritic, and then even down is our Google users, with 68% of Google users liking this film.
Yeah, and it's one of those that I think over time, because this happens with almost every franchise, or just like a series that has a finale, when you're at like, when it's sort of billed as like the final chapter, you know, when it's the Return of the King for Lord of the Rings or something like that, you kind of, there's this expectation that like, it's got to be not just good, but great. It's got to be kind of perfect. And so then when it's kind of imperfect, it stings that much more because it feels like that last hurrah. Like, for example, when Godzilla Final Wars was allegedly going to be the last Godzilla movie or the last for a while, even as a kid, I was like, this corny, cheesy, goofy bullcrap is the send-off for Godzilla. You know, I'm like, it stung, you know, when X-Men The Last Stand was the last one. I'm like, I like it, but like, that's the grand finale, you know. Spider-Man 3, that's the ultimate conclusion, you know. But you know, when the franchises like Godzilla and X-Men, you know, when they inevitably continue forward, even with the other iterations of Spider-Man, when they move forward and you get more of the story, and that's sort of final chapter is no longer the disappointing final chapter, and it just gets to kind of be an entry in the series with some highs and lows. I think it kind of takes some of the pressure off a little bit. So I think after the new Jurassic World comes out, whether it's perceived as a horrible movie or an excellent movie, I think this one will kind of be able to just be judged as like it's not the final Jurassic film ever, and this is where it lands. It's like, no, that was one entry. So I think the things it does well will be able to be a bit more appreciated, and the things it does not so well will be, will be able to be kind of locked over. Although, the whole storyline with the cloning and birthing your own clone in your own womb, like that was just total dumb. That's just idiotic. That's so dumb. I hated everything about that. I didn't hate that she was a clone in Fallen Kingdom. I thought that was perfectly fine. The way they tried to like lean into it and go way further into it and do the sequel thing of like, oh yeah, not only was your like, did you have a mother, but she was like the genius no one knew about for this entire franchise, and she grew you in her own womb and like cured the disease with it, and like that character gets the final monologue of the entire movie, of the entire franchise. It's like, what? Like, no, that's not how it ends. Like, we don't even know that character, like Alan Grant should have given the final speech of this movie, the final monologue. Like, that's the way it should have been, but no, we can't have that.
Yeah, I will say that, her being a clone, I was like, all right, she was cloned, like somewhat like they did the dinosaurs, in the first one, like she was made in a lab or something. That threw me for a loop when they said that she was actually born
Yeah.
from what is it, Charlotte Lockwood. I was like, what? I don't know how I feel about
Yeah,
that.
and I don't know how the timeline syncs up, like it didn't feel like the timeline, I don't know. It just changes things a lot, where the implication, because in Fallen Kingdom, it seems like the implication was that the thing that separated or caused the division between Hammond and Lockwood was that Lockwood wanted to clone his dead daughter. And it's like that would have happened many years prior, and many years prior to Maisie actually being created, it seems. But yet in this one, it's like, oh no, that's not what it was. Like, Lockwood had an actual daughter. Well, I mean, we knew she had an actual daughter. We had an actual daughter, but like, oh, she did it herself. Like, so what was the big falling out between Hammond and Lockwood then? Like, did he let his daughter do that? Like, again, it's the sequelitis thing where they just keep layering in new details of the lore and backstory and introducing new components that were allegedly always there secretly, but were never mentioned before. I can't stand that, and this movie does that very badly.
You can't just throw it past us, because people like Chris and I, we're gonna catch on. We're not gonna let it slide.
It's like the easiest thing, and the Jurassic movies were quite good at it for a while. The easiest thing to do is kind of leave what came before as it was and just kind of go into some new offshoot direction and do your own kind of story that's also relatively self-contained. This, like, building the mythology of the Jurassic World lore, like, that's a tough thing to do, and it was probably never going to work out that well.
Yeah, I agree. Give us a simple, back to the basics dinosaur film, like the first one, the second one, even the third one, and kind of quit trying to go with all the genetics, and we're getting a little too crazy for what began as a dinosaur, park film.
Exactly, and like it's all about locusts, like, okay, I guess that's fine. I'll say this. I'll say one more thing really quick. There were three franchises that were sort of rebooted with these legacy sequels, and they each had these new trilogies. And the initial one was always very, very well received and was hugely, hugely successful and seen as really good. Then the second one was like kind of controversial and kind of divided people. And then the third one kind of made nobody happy. And the three trilogies that did that were the rebooted Halloween trilogy with Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, the Star Wars trilogy with The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, and then the Jurassic World trilogy with Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, Dominion. They almost follow the same pattern. Each entry made less money than the last entry. The first entry always absolutely killed it and was absolutely loved by everyone. The second entry was somehow like controversial and divisive. And the third entry tried to like please everybody or do something different or go in a wild direction and kind of made nobody happy. So it's weird that they have these parallels, like all legacy sequels are doomed to follow this pattern. but it is what it is.
Absolutely. I love that you brought the trilogies up. Absolutely. I have one more number for you here, and that is our fatality count. And there are a total of 19 human deaths in this film, averaging to one about every 8.5 minutes.
That sounds about right. Sounds about right. I mean, I could always go for some more. Why not?
I'll jump right into some fun facts for you here. Keep creeping along. And my first one for you here is that Jeff Goldblum is the same age in this film that Richard Attenborough was in the original Jurassic Park in 93.
That's awesome. That's always fun. I like hearing stories like that because it's like, oh, you look at that. It's like you see the kind of role someone of Attenborough's age was playing in Jurassic Park, and then you see the kind of role that someone of that same age decades later gets to play with Jeff Goldblum in this movie, like a much more active and heroic kind of role. You know, someone pointed out that when Tobey Maguire came back for Spider-Man No Way Home, that he was the age that Willem Dafoe was when Willem Dafoe was playing the villain in the original Spider-Man. So again, a similar kind of thing. It's like, oh, Willem Dafoe was like the old villain, the middle-aged villain in the first Spider-Man, and then 20 years later, Tobey gets to come back and still be Spider-Man. It's like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to say that Jeff Goldblum is he's aging very well. He's got the nice beard in this,
I would not have believed that he was Attenborough's age from the original film, Like he doesn't.
No, Attenborough's got the cane, and
Attenborough just felt old, or maybe he was kind of playing it up a little bit, like I don't know what was that age? What is the number? What was the age that they were in these movies?
Well, let me find out.
So let me see if I can click over to Goldblum. So he's 72 now. So in 2022, he was what? 3 years ago, he was 70, 69, 70. Okay. Because that's how old Attenborough feels, about 70 in the original movie, but Goldblum doesn't feel 70 in Dominion, I would have guessed closer to 60,
Says Richard Attenborough was 66 when he starred in Jurassic Park.
Gosh, and so I think that makes him a little younger than how old Goldblum was 3 years ago. He was 69. So damn, like that's wild, dude. Like Attenborough feels more like 70 to 75, and Goldblum feels more like 60. In these movies.
I'm hoping I'm moving along and looking that good at 69.
If I think Tom Cruise is 60 or 61, I'd love to be like that when I'm 60, 61, 62. That dude's still jumping off of planes.
Yeah, no kidding. Right on the money with that one. Oh, my next one for you here is when Jeff Goldblum found out he was appearing with his two co-stars from the original film, he wrote on Instagram about Colin Trevorrow a line he said in the original: "You did it, you crazy son of a bitch, you did it."
That's great.
And he also added in, "Happy as a clamosaurus to be reunited with my brilliant co-stars from the original Jurassic Park, Laura Dern and Sam Neill, for the next installment of Jurassic World coming soon."
Yeah, and that's some of the best stuff in this movie. It's a good, anytime you say something negative about the movie, I'll fully admit, but it's like, you get to see these characters bouncing off of each other and interacting with each other again at different points in their lives. Like Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm, like they're friends, but they're kind of like that thing where it's like like that friend of a friend that you kind of like find a little grating, but like you still have that camaraderie. Like within the friend group, like you two aren't going to be going off and being buddies by yourselves doing anything, but you're still part of that same circle of friends. It's an interesting dynamic, and like that stuff, it's some of the best stuff in the movie, and it redeems a lot of the movie's faults. It's anytime you want to say something bad about the movie, you feel bad because it's got these great moments with these characters, and sure, it's nostalgia, whatever, fan service, cheap, whatever. It's like I still love seeing these characters again.
Yeah, we've been waiting to get these three back together. We got Ian Malcolm in The Lost World, and then we got Laura Dern and Sam Neill in Jurassic Park 3. So it's like, when can we get these three back together, and then we got the trilogy of the 2 films, and I kept waiting and like looking to see like are any of the original stars like starring. And when I heard about all of them coming together in this film, I was super excited to see where they take
Yeah,
these.
I like that they saved them for the third one. One thing that's an inversion of how Star Wars did it was Star Wars as the 3 movies progressed, they had less and less inclusion of the original leads and characters. And so by the time you get to episode 9, it's like there's barely any of that in there. This one started off basically having none of them involved with Jurassic World. And then over the course, Fallen Kingdom, you get a little bit of Jeff Goldblum, and then in this one you get them all back. And so like that was a fun inversion that it's like, okay, you get to lean more into the legacy as it goes on.
Absolutely, and I love it. I love it. I mean, who knows for down the road, but I don't see us getting them back, and it's in the next film for sure. Who knows, but we'll see what happens.
I think this was the moment, and they capitalized on it, and they gave them all some good dynamics and interplay together, and they kind of got Ellie and Alan their happy ending, and and I think it was how much more can you ask for? You're going to bring them back together every 5 years just because they're all still alive, and play it up and have the same it's like when you have these moments, you have to take them. And Disney didn't properly take advantage of those moments when all the original cast were alive, and now we no longer have Carrie Fisher, and it would all be, and they killed Harrison Ford's character, and it would all be impossible, but Universal didn't waste the opportunity here.
Yeah, this was those 3 characters, like they're right off into the sunset per se. My next one for you here, it's a little longer, so bear with me. Veteran character actor, let me see. Veteran character actor Campbell Scott joined the cast of Jurassic World Dominion as a key character from the original 1993 film. Scott plays Lewis Dodson, the mysterious man in the red shirt and sunglasses who provided Wayne Knight's Dennis Nedry with a fake can of Barbasol shaving cream to store the stolen dinosaur embryos. In Michael Crichton's original Jurassic novel, Dr. Lewis Dodson was the head of product development at genetics company Biosyn, a rival of InGen. Biosyn is not mentioned in Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park, which finds actor Cameron Thor playing Dodson. But in Jurassic World Dominion, Dodson has been promoted to CEO of Biosyn Genetics.
Dodson, we've got Dodson here.
See, nobody cares.
Yeah, don't look into the reasons of why the role was recast. It's kind of unfortunate. But recast with a better person, that's for sure, a better human being. And Biosyn, that comes right from the original novel, and I mean, it's not a very subtle name, Biosyn, spelled S-Y-N, but pronounced like the word S-I-N, because they're doing sinful things with bioengineering and evil things. Like you want to make a company sound evil, just put sin in the name, and but like it is a nice connection, it's nice callback. I don't think they play it up enough to where, unless you were really paying attention, I don't think you would even make that connection necessarily.
As a fan who's seen the first one 100 times, as soon as they said Dodson, I in theaters, I was like, it was that Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like, oh, there it is.
And,
there it is.
I'll fully admit, I'm the kind of fan that when they cast him as the character on the internet, I was like, oh, cool, they're bringing him back. So I knew it even going in. The casting kind of inherently ruined some stuff, but it is a nice kind of connection. It is a nice, pulling elements from what you can from the original to kind of do a proper legacy sequel. That's kind of what you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. This one kind of also connects us or it would have connected to the original for being a legacy sequel. Joseph Mazzello and Ariana Richards, the actors who portrayed Tim and Lex, John Hammond's grandchildren in the original film, stated they would be open to returning for the film should they be asked to pop in for a quick cameo or more, but ultimately they did not appear in the film.
That would have been so good, especially because Joseph Mazzello, he stopped acting for a while because he actually, like, from what I understand, like, pursued his education and finished it properly. But he came back. Like, he's in He's in the Bohemian Rhapsody, the Queen biopic. He's one of the members of the band. You know, like he got back into acting and like does some legitimate. You know, he's still around. It's not like he would just be coming out of retirement for this. Like he's still in the game. And it's like, gosh, it's like you couldn't like of all these random supporting roles in this movie, you couldn't have threaded him a more meaningful part in this film. Like he couldn't have been in a role similar in function to Ramsey's, maybe, you know, like within Biosyn or at the facility. You know, you couldn't get Lex and Tim back for anything in any capacity. It just would have been really satisfying, you know, at least maybe Tim, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. When I read that, I was like, damn, that would have been, you know, exciting.
No,
It would have been more fan
we got to make sure
service.
we bring Franklin and Zia back for a sequence from, you know, Fallen Kingdom. It's really important that we make it look like we're not ignoring those characters, you know. I'm sorry. You know, that's just the truth.
I love it. It gives me a good laugh over here.
That's
So
the truth of it. You know, you don't get a lot of chances where a child actor is still an actor as an adult and they can actually play themselves after being a child actor. Most times the child actors stop acting and then you have to get someone as an adult who just like looks similar, like with Independence Day. I don't think any of the kids from the original that were brought back as an adult, none of them were like you don't bring, usually it doesn't get to happen, but it could have happened with Tim and it would have been really cool, you know.
it would have. I know I don't have this in my fun facts, but Julianne Moore had said she played Sarah Harding in The Lost World. She said that she would be up for returning to for a future film as well, and was hoping she would get asked for this film. And eventually, clearly she wasn't asked and isn't in the final film.
That would have been fun too. I mean, Malcolm mentions that he has 5 kids now instead of just 3 like he did in the original film. So he got busy with somebody, but it could have been fun. It could have worked,
Yeah, you're bringing everyone else back. Why not?
Yeah.
My next one for you here is at about an hour into the film, the guy on the scooter who was eaten by the Allosaurus was the raffle winner from the All In Challenge that Chris Pratt organized, where donors were added into a raffle and the winner would be eaten on screen by a dinosaur in the film. But due to COVID travel restrictions, they couldn't have the guy physically come to set. So instead, they managed to film him on a green screen and edit him into the film being eaten.
Good gravy. Yeah. Well, you win the contest, you win the contest.
Hey, I'd be okay with getting a 10-second cameo in one of these films showing me being
eaten. If you're gonna get a cameo, you might as well be one eaten by a dinosaur, you know.
Yeah, I want to be eaten by the T-Rex though, not an Allosaurus.
Yeah. Let a raptor take me out.
And let Chris say the line, "Clever girl."
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. There we go.
This next one is kind of a little bit too. It has to do on the filming, what they had to go through just to get the film out. So the New York Times reported that the production crew had spent approximately $9 million putting safeguards into place for the film. That money had gone to renting out an entire hotel for the cast and crew to quarantine in for the remainder of the shoot. And they also established 150 hand sanitizing stations around the set and ordered roughly 18,000 COVID tests during filming.
Golly, no wonder this movie was so expensive.
And it was delayed by a year.
I know, and I was certain that year delay I was like, oh, so this is going to be a really fine-tuned and perfect movie, and it kind of just wasn't,
Just all due to the pandemic, pushing everything back.
It's amazing it's as good as it is, honestly, considering all of that,
I'm curious. I can't wait to see where you put it in your ranking, because I don't know if you'll be surprised or not from mine, but once we get to it, it'll be fun.
Yeah. I think that list will be more compelling if we start at the best and work our way down.
We can do that. I got 4 more fun facts for you here, and then we'll get into our favorite categories of the film. Approximately 18 animatronics of varying sizes and more than 100 sets were made for the filming of Jurassic World Dominion.
Okay, nice.
So that helps with telling you why this film was so expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it was never going to be cheap. You think that kind of automation is easy or cheap?
My next one for you here is with a 29% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. This is the second worst reviewed movie to gross over $1 billion worldwide, only after Transformers: Age of Extinction from 2014.
It is definitely a better movie than Transformers: Age of Extinction. I think. It's not a better big dumb action movie, but it's a better movie.
I would agree with you there. All right, my next one for you here is this is the third film released since the COVID-19 pandemic to gross over $1 billion worldwide after Spider-Man: No Way Home from 2021 and Top Gun: Maverick from 2022.
Yeah, good company. Top Gun: Maverick, probably my favorite example of what a legacy sequel can and should be. Top Gun: Maverick's a masterpiece.
And I'm going to put the knife right back in your back because I haven't seen it yet.
Watch Top Gun and then watch Top Gun: Maverick. Just do a double feature one night. You will be rewarded.
I will absolutely do that.
If you look, I know I say good things about the Mission Impossible movies. You haven't lived if you haven't watched the Top Gun double feature. Just do it. Watch one movie one night, mentally age 30 years, and then watch the other movie the next night.
I can do that, I suppose. I can do that for
Alrighty.
you. My last one for you here is this is the fourth Jurassic film nominated for a Razzie after The Lost World Jurassic Park, Jurassic Park 3, and then Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
I think that's a little harsh. I mean, I don't know. The Razzies are weird because it's more like the worst good movies than like the worst movies, because if it was really going for the sludge, it would be some sci-fi original, something from The Asylum, like movies that don't even deserve to like kind of exist would kind of win the Razzie every year. It's like, no, they just pick very mainstream movies that were perceived as being bad. There's certainly lots to criticize about this franchise, but I mean, they're not Razzie worthy.
No, not at all. You're thinking like if I'm thinking Razzie, of course these aren't going to be picked because they're not big enough films. But like the sci-fi, like Lake Placid versus Anaconda type movie,
or Halle Berry's Catwoman. It's like just because she's incredibly attractive in that movie does not make that movie good.
I'll give you that one. I have not seen it in a long time.
Because
so
if that was the case, then there'd be many movies that would be rated very highly just by the existence of some of the cast members.
I will jump right over into characters or our favorites categories for you. So, Chris, if you would like to go first for your favorite character in Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah, I got to go with Owen Grady. I mean, Alan Grant's obviously awesome too, but I got to go Owen Grady. He's kind of at like his peak powers in this movie in terms of his dino whispering and his dino fighting, and he's choking out a Dilophosaurus, with his bare hands, and like he's just like peak masculinity in this movie. The thing of just holding your hand out in front of every dinosaur you meet and that somehow keeping them at bay is the most ridiculous thing in the world. It's incredibly dumb, but it's still awesome to see it happen.
Absolutely. There's so many good characters in this film, with having our original trio back and then having our new trio with Owen, Claire, and Macy. I went with Owen on the last two films, and in this one, I went back to Ian Malcolm. Just he's very quippy in this film. He says a lot of things that make me
sharp as a tack.
Yes, he says a lot of things that make me laugh, and then I loved seeing him back in the Jurassic World franchise, and then seeing him interact with Alan and Ellie, which is it brought me back to the first film. Clearly, this one's not as good, but it brought that connection back with those three characters, and I had a blast with it. With the way he portrayed Ian in this film, so that I ended up choosing Ian as my favorite.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to the young actress Isabella Sermon who plays Maisie. I think if she so chooses, she should have a really good career ahead of her. I think she's a talented young actress. So, for what it's worth,
I agree with you there. I'll give you my favorite score for the film, and all these films have great scores, but I chose the Battle Royal Reprise, where I guess it's kind of like the rematch of Rexy and the Giganotosaurus, and I just, again, it's that theme music or music from the film, the soundtrack that's accompanying the climax of the film. We think that, okay, like the Giganotosaurus got the better of Rexy a little earlier in the film. So, all right, Rexy's coming back. And the characters in the film even say, like, this isn't about us. Like, clearly it's about dominance. So you think Rexy's going to get the better, and nope, it gets taken down again. And the Therizinosaurus like shows up, and then it's like a 2-on-1 little quick battle, and Rexy ends up coming out on top. And it's just a fun little, like, the music for that I thought was done very well. So I'll crop that in here for us, and then that's the one I chose.
Yeah, we are in agreement on that. Battle Royale with Reprise was my favorite track as well. That's a great sequence, the sort of big climax. That's always where the music shines. It's great when you think Rexy's kind of like down and out, maybe dead, and then kind of gets that second wind. I mean, they have the moment where Rexy walks through the display and you kind of have the logo of the franchise recreated visually there. I think that's a great moment. Like, that's the kind of fan service I like, that if you're not really paying attention, it kind of sneaks up on you. I like stuff like that. It's a great score. Michael Giacchino just absolutely killing it. It's fantastic.
Absolutely, 100%. So, what was your favorite quote? I mean, I'm going to mention about 4 or 5 here, so feel free to throw a couple out there.
Sure. So, like, I've got 2 ones I love, and then a dishonorable mention. Not there's a couple that you could use, but there's one in particular that I didn't like. But my peak favorite one was probably Dr. Alan Grant saying, "This isn't about us," before Rexy and the Giganotosaurus fight. Because to me, that feels like that's kind of what the whole movie's about. Like, yes, it's about these original characters, but really it's about the dinosaurs. Like, it's not about the humans. It's about the creatures and the dinosaurs and the thrill of it and the visual effects and the adventure, So that's like a meta line, and I really like that from Dr. Alan Grant. My favorite line from Malcolm is a meta line, a very sort of like, self-aware kind of line where he says, "Jurassic World, not a fan." Like, you can just feel, Ian Malcolm would be the kind of guy who, if he was a fan of the Jurassic franchise, would shit on Jurassic World because it's not as good as Jurassic Park. That's exactly the kind of guy that Ian Malcolm would be. So him saying not a fan, I'm like, that's so good, because it's like, that would be his opinion of the movie as well. And then my absolute least favorite line in the movie maybe was just like the worst attempt at humor for me and Malcolm, and it's when he says, "I had a dog once, he humped my leg so much I had a callus on my shin bone," and then he even says, like, "That's a true story." It's like, that feels so out of place. That feels like it belongs in a Michael Bay Transformers movie. That does not feel like that was something that, Ian Malcolm has a higher brand sense of humor than that. Like, that just feels like such a cheap gag, stupid of a joke. I just did not like that line at all. It's so bad.
That was one of the ones I had on mine as one of the ones from him that it gave me a little chuckle, but I was just like, clearly, like you said, it was a little bit too hard of an attempt at humor.
Yeah, it's a bad line.
I had a couple from Ian that I liked, kind of when the locusts are falling, when they're driving and they're falling on the roof, and he's like, "That's bananas." Like, that gave me a good chuckle. And he also makes the line, he's like, "You made a promise to a dinosaur," and it's just like the way he says it in the film, it just gives you a good laugh because he's so
Yeah,
serious
and
about
it makes
how he says
it makes you realize how kind of stupid it is, but it's like, yeah, Owen's like, yeah, like like totally. So like it's fun.
Another one from him was when he sees Dr. Henry Wu again, and he goes, "No, no, 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 not him,
Yeah.
not him, not him. It's always him. Every sing." And then he stops mid sentence and he looks at Owen and he goes, "Is that a dinosaur on your shoulder?"
I would speaking of which, I would have loved for Blue to have a more pivotal role in this film, and maybe this film could have been, the death of Blue. That would have been dramatic but kind of satisfying, like it's kind of a shame that she's left on the sidelines the entire time.
Yeah, when it came to Blue, I thought the CGI in this film for Blue was
Weird.
kind of lackluster. Like it took a step back
Yeah,
for her.
herky jerky. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, you can't bring Blue on the globe-trotting trek to the dinosaur sanctuary, but it's like, why not have Blue and her child get captured, and then they're there in the climax, And it's like, instead of Owen like making a promise to her to go get her little one back, like they're going to get Maisie, so it's like they're going anyway. And then if they happen to find Blue and their and her child while there, then they feel compelled. He feels compelled on the fly to rescue them as well, and maybe Blue dies, sacrifices herself for him, something like that. Not just like, oh, they took our kid, they took her kid, like I'm gonna go get her kid back too. Like come on now.
I see where you're coming at. I see where
A
you are
better
coming
version of
from,
the
man.
movies where I'm going.
That's what you're
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
at. Put Chris in the writer's
Yeah,
chair. He's had enough.
something.
I had one more like quick honorable mention for quotes, and then I'll give you my favorite one. And it's when Kayla and Owen were kind of doing a back and forth. She's like, "You really love her, huh?" Speaking about Claire, and he goes, "Yeah." And Kayla replies, "I get it. I like redheads too."
Yeah, I mean, Bryce Dallas Howard is, she's been, she's gone through some body fluctuations across these three films, but I mean, she's a gorgeous woman, and I'll just leave it at that. There are some times
I couldn't.
where her stunt double in this movie looks a little bit more lean than she perhaps was in this movie, but she's still a very attractive woman.
Couldn't agree with you more. But my favorite quote, I know you spoke on this a little bit earlier. This is the one that Alan Grant should have had, but it's from Charlotte, and it says, "The idea that life on Earth existed 65 million years ago, it's humbling. We act like we're alone here, but we're not. We're part of a fragile system made up of all living things. If we're going to survive, we'll have to trust each other, depend on each other, coexist." And I thought that was just like a perfect wrap up for the film. And I'll talk about the scene it's encompassing here in a little
Yeah.
bit, but I thought it was a perfect wrap up. And now that you say it would have been a perfect line for Alan Grant's character
Yes.
to deliver at the end.
Yes, it would have been. It would have been.
All right, Chris. So what was your favorite scene in Jurassic World Dominion?
I actually liked when the whole gang was basically the whole team versus the Giganotosaurus. To me, that's just like kind of like the epitome of what the Jurassic franchise is kind of all about in essence. There's, we haven't said a lot about the increased level of practical effects in this movie, but I do like that. I do like that they tried to isolate moments and sequences where they could have big animatronics involved, just to kind of go back to the way it was in the first movie a little bit more. I do like that they tried to honor that spirit. But yeah, the big group scene, especially because the first time you watch the movie, you're wondering like, oh, are any of the legacy characters or any of the characters going to sacrifice themselves with someone else? Anyone going to get taken out? Anyone going to get killed? Who's going to have to save who? It's just high tension, and so it's a great sequence.
Absolutely. That was absolutely one of the ones I chose as well, when everybody meets up and Owen and Alan Grant kind of at the same time are all like, "Don't
That's
move."
a great
And Alan Grant kind of looks,
great moment.
he looks at Owen like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not used to this."
I subscribe, the actor who played the kid kind of said, no, that's not the case. But I subscribe to the fan theory and the head canon that the little kid that Alan Grant scared to death at the beginning of the first Jurassic Park is young Owen Grady. and that Alan Grant kind of scared him straight and kind of set him on this path of like, he gets he goes into the Navy, but then he becomes this raptor specialist. Like, I love that idea, and I wish they would have leaned into it, because then you could have had Owen and Grant have that conversation, like this somber moment where he's like, yeah, I was just some dumb kid, and like, you scared the bejesus out of me, but it made me love raptors. And like, like that could have been a great moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you've mentioned that before, and I would have liked that as well. I always am welcome to callbacks like that. So I love that in films, if that would have
There's
happened.
a better version of this movie just sitting there in the ether,
Just typed up on Chris's laptop.
I suppose,
All the extra added scenes that he would have done, all the deleted scenes he would have taken out.
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard in a bikini, maybe. No, I'm joking.
But the Giganotosaurus encounter was one of the ones I chose. Of course, we spoke on Rexy versus the Giganotosaurus at the end, and teaming up with the Therizinosaurus, and then the only other one I wanted to speak on was the coexistence ending sequence, where Charlotte is she is delivering like the monologue about Earth existing 65 million years ago, that about life on Earth existing 65 million years ago, and the scene with like the Mosasaurus swimming with the whales, and like the dinosaurs running with the horses. I thought all that was very well done for an ending scene. So I wanted to give that one a little shout out as well.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the alternate prologue that wasn't used in the theatrical cut, that it's like starts off 65 million years ago. That's just like an awesome sort of walking with dinosaurs sequence. And so like, it's just great, like I wish that had been in the movie, and if they cut some more of this nonsense out, it could have been in the final cut of the movie, because I think it would have really, it's not a lot, but I feel like having that sequence book into the movie at the start of it, and then you come full circle, I feel like it would have been a nice, could have helped the movie's structure a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree with you. Is there anything else we want to speak on with Jurassic World Dominion before we go into some final thoughts, our ranking, and then speak on what we're getting into on our next episode?
I don't think so.
All right, so I'll give you some final thoughts. I mean, I'm a huge fan of this franchise. I mean, I'm not one of the biggest fans out there, but anytime one of these movies comes out, I want to see it in theaters. I want to buy it. When I was younger, I used to get all the toys and collectibles and stuff. Now being 30 some years old, I don't quite do that anymore. So, but I definitely Jurassic World Rebirth, when it comes out here in a couple days, I'm definitely going to see it in theaters. And then Chris and I will have a little first time viewing, like a reaction episode for you guys. It might be not be that long, just a short little quick episode on our first thoughts on Jurassic World Rebirth. But I love all these films. I have fun with them, and when we get to our rankings, I'll dive in a little more about this film that we're on now.
Yeah, it's my final thoughts would be that it's flawed, that it's a bit of a mixed bag, but that in that mixed bag, there's some great stuff in there and some really not so great stuff. But it's not a mixed bag where it's like, oh, this movie's okay, and then some of it's really awful. It's like, no, it's a mixed bag where it's like the highs are quite high, but unfortunately the lows are quite low, and there's just too much of that sprinkled throughout.
Absolutely. It is definitely, I mean, like I said, in theaters, I was mixed on it. I'm still a little mixed, but I'll get into our rankings for the franchise of the 6 films before the 7th film, Jurassic World Rebirth, comes out. And we'll, like Chris said, we'll start from our favorite or the best film in the franchise, in our opinion, and we'll go to the worst. Since
and are we gonna go like, are we gonna go tit for tat, like your best, my best, second best, second best? We're gonna do that.
We can do that, or we can
let's
go.
do it that way. Let's do it that way.
All right. So my favorite of the franchise, in the number 1 spot, is the original Jurassic Park.
Fully agree with you there. That's what I got.
And in my number 2 spot, I have 2015's Jurassic World.
Agreed.
And then in my number 3 spot, I have The Lost World Jurassic Park.
3 for 3.
All right. In my number 4 spot, I have Jurassic World Dominion.
Ooh. Oh man. I've got Fallen Kingdom in my number 4 spot.
So, well, we're not so different with that. In my number 5 spot, I have Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Right. In my number 5 spot, I have Jurassic Park 3.
Ooh, that's not what I expected.
Yeah. Oh.
So in my 6th spot, in my least favorite of the franchise, which is crazy because I still thoroughly enjoy Jurassic Park 3, but that is in my number 6 spot for the franchise.
I've got Dominion as that is the toughest one. I will say that the closest competition here is between Jurassic Park 3 and Dominion for the worst, because it doesn't feel right to say that Dominion is the worst. But so maybe here's a better way to put it. If there's a movie that I would most want, or that I would be most okay with removing from the franchise entirely, it would be Jurassic Park 3. It would be the easiest to pull out, and in truth, in marathons, I skip it. But Jurassic World Dominion, I think if you sit down and watch Jurassic Park 3 and then watch Dominion, I think Jurassic World Dominion is a worse movie in some regards. It's longer. It's got worse weak spots, and Jurassic Park 3 is kind of just simple little Jurassic adventure. But I might be changing on the fly here, because if I say that I would watch 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 and skip 3, I guess that's the lowest, right? That I would be comfortable leaving it out of the franchise entirely. So I guess I'm now having an instant replay moment here, and I guess Jurassic Park 3 is the worst one for me, I suppose, you know.
Well, I kind of did it. I based it. It was hard because, like we said, after the original Jurassic World in 2015, once we get to Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, it's hard to place where we would put Part 3 and then Dominion and Fallen Kingdom. But I can't in my consciousness like put this as like my least favorite in the franchise when it brings back.
You know what, it's the truth. You know, I'm trying to chew on this here, but it's absolutely the truth. You know, when I think about it, like the two trilogies, like Jurassic Park is better than Jurassic World, but Jurassic World is almost as good as Jurassic Park. The Lost World isn't as good as Park or Jurassic World, and it's better than Fallen Kingdom. But, you know, there's a certain degree of fall off from Park to the Lost World and Jurassic World fits within there. And there's a certain degree of fall off from Jurassic World to Fallen Kingdom, but the Lost World is within that gap. It's better than Fallen Kingdom. But I do think, like, considering what you're saying, like, yeah, like Jurassic Park 3, like, you know, if you were to tell me, like, you can't watch any of them ever again, or one's got to be deleted from existence, or it's going to be decanonized, or it's going to be pulled from the lore, like, Jurassic Park 3 has a weird name, so, like, on a baseline, it just kind of doesn't make sense within the franchise. Like, it's a sequel to a movie called The Lost World, and then it's called Jurassic Park 3. And then, like, you know, Dominion, it does go full circle. It does bring the original characters back. It does do, like, the good things it does are better than the good things that Jurassic Park 3 does, even if the worst things that Dominion does are worse than the worst things that Jurassic Park 3 does. Jurassic Park 3 is a bit more inoffensive, but Dominion, you know, it might land lower in some parts, but it's also aiming and reaching a lot higher in other parts. So Dominion, it gets the number 5 spot, and it's better than Jurassic Park 3. It is. I can say that. Yeah.
All right. There's a lot more dinosaur action. We get our stars back. So I mean it's right in the middle.
You can't deny that. And plus, there's a certain, if you leave it at 5 movies, you know, if you watch Jurassic Park, World, The Lost World, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and Dominion, you get this nice little thing where you get the original 3 stars in the first movie of Jurassic Park and the original 3 in Dominion, and then like the second Jurassic Park has Ian Malcolm in it, and the second to last Jurassic World has Ian Malcolm in it, although not as much. And then in the middle you would have Jurassic World with none of them in it. So it's like you get Jurassic World at the center and then 2 movies on either side of it. A nice little 5 film sequence if you leave Jurassic Park 3 out. So I think that's for the best.
So Here on Chills and Thrills, we're deleting Jurassic Park 3 from our
Jurassic Park 3
existence.
doesn't exist anymore. It's from an alternate timeline where they made Jurassic Park 2. They made a movie called Jurassic Park 2, and then they made Jurassic Park 3, but the timelines converged, and we got Jurassic Park 3 in our reality.
the continuity kills me.
Yeah, stop me. The title alone is a deal breaker.
The title alone puts it in our Chris's.
They usurp the Tyrannosaurus from being the mascot of the franchise. There is really a lot I don't like about Jurassic Park 3.
Those are our Jurassic Park and Jurassic World film rankings.
Rankings. Okay.
Our rankings.
That's awful. That's not good. That's terrible.
Feel free to comment underneath the episode on Spotify and let us know what your rankings are, because we would love to read them.
Yeah, tell us why we're wrong, and then admit why we're right.
So, Chris, we of course will get a short episode on first thoughts for Jurassic World Rebirth, but before that, on our next episode, we will be diving into the Jumanji franchise and those 3 films.
Very interesting, very fun. Going back to the 90s.
Absolutely. So, I'm excited for those because I grew up on the original Jumanji a lot as a kid. It was one of my mom's favorite movies. And then so many years later, we get, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, and then Jumanji, The Next Level with The Rock and Kevin Hart and Jack Black. And
Joe Johnston might have directed the worst Jurassic Park movie, but he, by God, he did not direct the worst Jumanji movie. So he gets some redemption here on the cast. And I love a lot of his movies. Captain America, the First Avenger, insanely underrated. He's got a lot of really good stuff under his belt. And Jurassic Park 3 is not a bad movie. It's just the worst one.
It's just the worst or our least favorite in this franchise.
Sure thing.
All right, Chris. So before we get out of here, of course, I will say thank you for joining me on this. We've completed the 6 films so far for the Jurassic Park franchise. And again, we'll get a quick one out for Jurassic World Rebirth. And then once the Blu-ray or 4K releases, we will get a full episode out on that one for our listeners.
Indeed. Looking forward to it.
So again, thank you for joining me. Thank anyone who's out there listening. Again, leave your Jurassic Park franchise rankings on our Facebook, on our YouTube, anywhere you can find this podcast. Leave us your ranking down below. And then tune in next week as we begin the Jumanji franchise. So until next time.
The idea that life on Earth existed 65 million years ago. It's humbling. We act like we're alone here, but we're not. We're part of a fragile system made up of all living things. If we're going to survive, we'll have to trust each other. Depend on each other. Coexist.